Hi everyone, I'm making you another screencast video to explain reading response number 6. So first of all, this is going to be your last reading response because after carefully evaluating everything we need to accomplish, essentially in less than 2 weeks, I have canceled reading response number 7, and I'm trying to make this reading response number 6 100% about your interdisciplinary unit plan so that it prepares you. So this is due June 22nd. In the syllabus it says differently. It says that reading response number 7 is due, but I canceled number 7 and instead am making 6 due on the 22nd. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that you feel a little relieved, a lot less to do. In fact, there is really no reading. I have videos, fun videos for you to watch, because I just want to provide some more inspirational videos. And specifically, Mercury, I'm thinking of you. You're going to be looking at how math teachers think about conceptual thinking. Conceptual thinking is so important to interdisciplinary planning, and so you're going to view these videos. I hope the last I checked they were all working, so they should be working for you. And also I want you to watch this video about a local story. This is actually someone who I know, Buffy. She is the leader of a school in Kaimuki near Diamond Head called SEEKS. It's an acronym for Sustainability and Essential Questions. It's amazing. This video is actually, she filmed a TED Talk, a local TED Talk before the school opened. Since then, I have toured this school, and this school is taking off. But they are a wonderful example about a local secondary school doing work towards interdisciplinary teaching, and that's what you are working towards as your interdisciplinary plan. And the goal is by Thursday for you to begin a draft of a master calendar after you have spoken with your team about determining a theme. So let me talk about the directions a little bit. So I'm going to pull up some other ideas here. This is all in La Lima. You are going to be creating a mini unit plan, and this is the criteria below. So you are going to create a mini unit calendar. So when this is due by next week, on our last class that we meet physically on Wednesday, you will produce a 2-week mini unit calendar. So normally in my normal school year, we have a lot more time to go more in depth, but for our summer purposes, I'm having you, I still want you to have the experience of unit planning, but I have tapered it down a bit so that you can still have a very meaningful experience in our short amount of time. So the first thing we'll be doing in class this week is, and this is why I want you to watch this video now, is because on Wednesday I want you to come together with your interdisciplinary team with some ideas of either a theme or an essential question. And let you know, previous teams and my former students in my previous classes have done both. They have determined a theme and an essential question to guide their unit. This is something as a team you have to do. So I will give you class time to vote and decide which idea will help all of you get excited about changing our secondary schools and making secondary schools an exciting place to be. Here are some examples of themes like continuity change. Notice how large these concepts are that allows anyone from math, art, world language, and all of our core academic subjects to do something with these large themes. Sustainability is a very popular theme, especially here in Hawaii, where we need to look at this more carefully. I saw this really good unit plan on the idea of fairness and equity. Boy, how relevant for teenagers. How many of you have said, that's not fair, when you were a teenager? The unit plan that this particular team came up with was so fun and exciting for teenagers to get behind. Conflict and peace, again, very large concepts that allows you not to just, a lot of people in social studies are like, oh, I can explore the topic of war, but conflict and peace is not always attached to a war. There's so many other ways to explore these concepts. So anyway, so here are some ideas of different themes, and then here are examples of essential questions. I will be, again, continuing to scaffold and provide more instruction on this, but by Wednesday, I will give you time in class for your team to decide these ideas. And then once you have that, your team has to also create at least 2 enduring understandings that will guide your planning when you make your calendar. And then within your master calendar, this is what your product will be when you complete. You will each produce a master calendar that is all under the same theme or essential question. And in your calendar, you will identify a daily objective that will begin with, and you already have, for those of you that have already lesson planned, you know the statement, students will. What will the students be doing in that class period? You're not going to be writing a full lesson plan at all. You don't have time for that. You're just giving me a real rough sketch. If I were your principal and I ran into you before the classes started and I said, what will your students be doing today? You should be able to say, students will be defining terminology related to whatever your theme is. Okay, so then you'll also have to identify a standard or 2 that you'll be addressing for this 2-week calendar. Some standards, no standard can be, I argue, no standard can really be given full justice in a 1-day lesson. The standards are too heavy and large of concepts. They have to be scaffolded, and usually, especially depending on the standard, it can take me 2 to 3 weeks to scaffold it carefully. So that's really important to keep in mind. So you technically, depending, maybe math might be able to have more than 2, but that's also rare. So again, I will work with you individually when I look at your drafts, but make sure that you do identify at least 1. And you might have to keep deleting and changing. Look at master calendaring is like writing a final paper. It goes through several revisions as you are finding more resources and finding more ideas. You might find that you don't want to work with the standard that you originally selected, so you might have to find a standard that better fits your new idea. So just be open and trust the process that this is, unit planning is just like writing a final paper. It goes through many revisions. And then you want to identify resources. These resources can be for the students or they can be for you, but maybe you're going to show a video that's going to help the students understand how to write an argumentative essay. So you'll want to make sure that that video link is included in your master calendar. You're going to identify 7 literacy strategies in your 10-day calendar. This should not be too difficult to do because you can borrow. You just learned 6 last week along with mine, 7 plus the reading strategies. Maybe you're going to include a 1-pager. You know, think of all the literacy strategies you have learned in this short amount of time together this summer, but you're going to continue to learn more. So I hope to see those. You can also bring in other strategies that you have found online, in books, or from other classes. So I hope to see those easily. You're not writing lesson plans. You're just going to say, on this Tuesday, we're going to be doing word splash. Because we all know what word splash is, that is adequate enough. And then you're going to put all the calendars together. You guys can put them in a Word document and print them and give it to me in paper on the last day together, or you can put it in a Google site and go digital. I've seen people even create a web page. So all depends on what your team think is the easiest route to go in. And then you're going to be having a presentation celebration where we'll highlight some of the favorite parts of your calendar. And I have an example of a calendar here. You can see from here that please copy and paste this calendar. This can be your template. And then you'll put in all of your ideas. So again, you need a theme or an essential question. This example has both, but you only need one or the other. So your team will determine this. And this team called their theme Thriving to Survive. Their concepts were survive, and that is so large and can be spoken about from so many perspectives and defined in different ways that it gave this team a lot of ways that they could explore that concept. They also asked the essential question, what does it mean for Mother Nature and humans to be well? So again, wellness, that is a huge, large concept that can be taken in many directions. And for this week, they decided that their enduring understanding that goes with this theme is we all must eat to survive. So this team composed of an English expert, an English teacher, a social studies, and a science teacher, and a math teacher. I just stuck with the core academic subjects here. These four got together and they decided that all of their students were going to go on a field trip on the first day, all day long. So when I go on Monday, I can see that the field trip is happening in English, social studies, and so on. So everyone's going to the field trip. And their resource is a local farm here. I don't know if any of you have been to this local farm. I've been there personally, and it's fantastic. They offer all kinds of place-based education in different ways that the students can experience the INA. And this counts as the resource, because if you go onto this website, you can find out what this farm has to offer, and that would include the resource. And this objective right here is students will. So notice, students will is how you always start off your lesson objective. Students will form opinions about the issues that surround the INA, because this English teacher is using the Common Core standard, is going to have the students write arguments, and they need to understand what claims are. You just don't tell your students on Monday, today you're going to write an argumentative essay. Okay, ready, set, go, write an argument. A lot of hands will go up. What's an argument? How do you write a good argument? So one way to get students to write a good argument is to first start having them form opinions. Opinions then can start turning into persuasion. And then you can start getting evidence and claims. This can take weeks for students to start to write a formal argument in a paper that all stemmed first from opinions. So anyway, as the former English teacher in me, loves these ideas. But again, it doesn't happen overnight to be able to address this standard. So the first day, the teacher, for a little bit of the field trip, the students are going to do the mix and mingle strategy that Tardo already did for his example. And they're going to go on a scavenger hunt to look at concepts and learn about the INA, which will start to help them form some opinions. And then on Tuesday, the students are going to dramatize their opinions. So the literacy strategy is dramatic role play, which allows them to embody some of the opinions that they learn from the field trip. And then as they move on during the week, they're going to be able to start researching these opinions so that they can start to figure out what claims they can make. And they're going to be reading this chapter called Chew on This, and they're also going to start seeing the video called Cheeseburgers and Fries and Food Tech. So there's all of these resources to start helping them think about food and survival. Notice that this English teacher is not only helping them to write an argument, but this writing argument all relates to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, all relating to this essential question and this, we all must eat to survive. This is just week one, and this is exactly what you have to accomplish. In your calendar, I expect to see a lesson objective. I expect to see your literacy strategies, your resources, and you can put your standard. The day it starts, I will expect that every day is supporting that standard. So then when you look at social studies, you can see here again, students are at the field trip, but from a historian lens, the history teacher is having the students take pictures so that they can tell stories about the INA. And their standard was not only the Common Core, they have to cite textual evidence with primary and secondary sources, but they also have to learn about the Hawaiian history, which is perfect that they're in this Hawaii setting at this field trip, starting, and at this place they start to go over some of the issues that goes into our Hawaii history. So students every day are starting to think like historians, and this history teacher is teaching them to read like a historian and using specialized literacy strategies, and using sourcing and helping them to debate like a historian. And again, literacy strategies and resources are all part of here. If there's videos, there's links. Again, if I was a substitute teacher and I looked at this lesson plan, I would not be successful because I don't know all the details, but I can see though that there has been some thoughtful planning, that there is some cohesive objective here to get students to the standard. But again, as a substitute, there's no way I would be successful by looking at a unit plan written as this compared to your lesson plans that you're doing, which have a script. But obviously, there's no way in this amount of time I could have you script out everything. So you're just showing me your thinking the best you can in the most economized way in this calendar. Again, here's science. And in science on the field trip, the science teacher is having them take a double entry journal to start them recording their impressions and starting to form questions the day they're on the field trip. And they're going to collect samples from the soil. So the teacher is going to give them a test tubes, and they're going to collect soil samples and label them and start to record their impressions and make inquiry questions. So again, the students are having a very busy day on the farm here. All day long, they are doing this mix and mingle. They are grabbing opinions. They are taking photos and videograms of the land. And now they are also collecting samples of the soil. And this is getting them ready to follow this comes right out of the Common Core, how to get ready for an experiment. And the teacher is going to take that soil and have the students also collect soil from the school. Here's the school soil. And throughout the entire week, they are getting ready to write like a scientist by predicting and by making science observation logs and comparing by using the Venn diagram. They're going to compare the farmland to the soil. And again, they have these wonderful test soil kits, and that's our resource. Again, you guys get to dream big. You have unlimited money to be able to do this. And then in math, the math teacher is having the students do a measure log because their math standard requires them to think about proportional relationships and to solve percent problems. So again, they are looking from a mathematical lens at the land, thinking about how much land there is and how understanding proportion is ideal for growing food. This all goes back to the generalization. Every single teacher is not only teaching to their specific discipline standard, but also thinking about how this relates to surviving to eat. And mathematicians are incredibly important when thinking about the land and ideal proportions. I know that when I started farming in my own backyard years ago, I had to think about math a lot. So this becomes an authentic experience of learning math and how to identify ratios and proportions throughout the week. So again, this math teacher has considered really cool resources, helping the students to use literacy strategies like an anticipation guide, read alouds that support all of these concepts. Okay, so this is an example of a 1 week calendar. You only have to write a 2 week calendar as you think about how all of your ideas not only relate to your standard, but also connect to your enduring understanding, which are all part of the larger umbrella of your theme or essential question. Come back to class on Wednesday with all of your ideas so that your team can start to brainstorm an essential question or a theme that's going to keep you excited for secondary.